There is a moment in a man's life that changes everything. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a slow crack forming beneath the surface of his identity. It is the moment when he realizes that the world does not care about his intentions, his kindness, or his sacrifices. It only responds to what he can command, what he can endure, and what he can control. Most men encounter this moment through disappointment, a betrayal that arrives from someone they trusted, a failure that exposes the limits of their preparation, a humiliation that reveals how fragile their social standing truly is. And in that moment, something inside them fractures. For some men, that fracture becomes permanent weakness. They retreat into resentment, blaming circumstances and other people for their suffering. But for a small number of men, the fracture becomes something else entirely. It becomes the beginning of transformation. Because once a man has been broken by reality, he finally becomes capable of understanding it. The world teaches men many comforting illusions while they are young. It tells them that if they are honest, hardworking, and kind, the world will reward them. It tells them that loyalty will always be reciprocated, that fairness governs human interaction, and that effort alone determines outcomes. But the older a man becomes, the more cracks appear in these beliefs. He begins noticing that many successful individuals are not necessarily the most virtuous. He notices that loyalty is often conditional, shifting with advantage and circumstance. He observes that power, not fairness, frequently shapes outcomes. And when these observations accumulate, the man who is paying attention begins asking uncomfortable questions. If the world does not operate according to the rules he was taught, then what rules actually govern human behavior? This question has troubled thinkers for centuries. Among them was Machiavelli, a man who understood something about power that many people prefer not to acknowledge. Human society does not operate purely on morality. It operates on influence, perception, and leverage. The individuals who understand these dynamics quietly shape outcomes around them, while those who ignore them often become victims of forces they never saw coming. This does not mean morality is meaningless, but it does mean that morality alone cannot protect someone in environments where power dynamics dominate. And when a man experiences betrayal, humiliation, or failure, he stands at a crossroads. He can cling to comforting illusions and remain vulnerable, or he can study the deeper mechanics of human behavior and begin transforming himself into something far more formidable. The first savage lesson a broken man must learn is that respect is rarely given to those who seek it. Respect is given to those who demonstrate control. Most men misunderstand respect because they associate it with approval. They believe that if people like them, respect will follow naturally. But approval and respect are not the same thing. Approval is emotional. Respect is strategic. Approval can be given freely, even to individuals who lack strength or discipline. But respect emerges only when people sense that a man possesses internal stability and the ability to enforce boundaries. In many environments, the man who constantly seeks approval becomes the easiest to manipulate. He avoids confrontation, tolerates disrespect, and sacrifices his own interests to maintain harmony. And over time, people begin recognizing this pattern. They realize that his boundaries are flexible, that his reactions are predictable, and that his desire to be liked can be exploited. Powerful individuals behave differently. They do not chase approval. They prioritize control over their behavior, their emotions, and their decisions. When they speak, their tone carries clarity rather than desperation. When they encounter disrespect, they respond calmly rather than explosively. And because their reactions are measured and deliberate, people begin interpreting their presence differently. They may not always be liked, but they are taken seriously. And in many situations, being taken seriously provides far more influence than being liked. The second savage lesson is that emotional control is the foundation of power. Most men believe strength is expressed through aggression. They imagine power as loud voices, dominating arguments, or visible displays of confidence. But real power often appears far quieter. It appears in the ability to remain calm when others expect anger. It appears in the discipline to delay reaction until the situation is fully understood. It appears in the refusal to allow other people's behavior to dictate one's emotional state. Consider how easily many men reveal their weaknesses through emotional reactions. An insult provokes immediate anger. A criticism triggers defensive explanations. A disagreement escalates into confrontation. Each reaction reveals something about the man's internal structure. It reveals his triggers, his insecurities, and the boundaries of his composure. And once those triggers become visible, they can be used against him repeatedly. Strategic individuals recognize this vulnerability. They understand that emotions are signals rather than commands. When anger appears, they observe it rather than obey it. When frustration arises, they analyze the cause rather than reacting impulsively. This emotional discipline transforms conflicts in subtle ways. The man who remains calm during confrontation appears stable. The man who reacts emotionally appears unstable. And in social environments where perception shapes influence, stability commands authority. People instinctively gravitate toward individuals who appear composed under pressure. They trust their judgment more readily. They hesitate before challenging them openly. Over time, emotional control becomes a reputation that surrounds the man, and reputation, once established, becomes one of the most powerful forms of leverage available. The third savage lesson is that loyalty must be evaluated through behavior, not words. Many broken men reach their lowest moments because they trusted promises rather than patterns. Words can be spoken easily. They require no investment, no sacrifice, and no proof. But behavior reveals intention with far greater accuracy. When a man studies the actions of those around him, he begins noticing patterns that were previously invisible. The friend who disappears during difficult moments, but returns when opportunities arise. The colleague who praises publicly but undermines privately. The partner who promises loyalty but demonstrates inconsistency through small betrayals. These patterns reveal something fundamental about human behavior. Most individuals prioritize their own interests, even when they claim otherwise. This is not necessarily malicious. It is simply the natural instinct for self-preservation. Understanding this reality allows a man to navigate relationships more strategically. He does not become cynical or hostile. Instead, he becomes observant. He invests loyalty gradually rather than immediately. He evaluates trust through repeated behavior rather than emotional declarations. And because his trust is earned rather than given freely, the people who remain close to him represent genuine alignment rather than convenience. This shift protects him from one of the most common forms of manipulation, emotional leverage disguised as loyalty. The fourth savage lesson concerns independence. A broken man often reaches his breaking point because his identity became dependent on something outside his control. A relationship that defined his sense of worth. A career that determined his self-respect. A social environment that provided validation. When that external element collapses, the man feels as if his entire identity has been destroyed. But the strategic thinker understands that identity must be anchored internally rather than externally. When identity depends on principles such as discipline, resilience, and clarity, it cannot be easily taken away. Relationships may change, careers may collapse, social circles may shift, but the internal structure remains intact. This internal stability creates something rare in modern environments: psychological independence. The independent man does not require constant approval to feel secure. He does not collapse emotionally when circumstances change. He adapts, analyzes, and moves forward. Because his identity is not defined by temporary situations, he can navigate those situations with greater flexibility. This flexibility becomes an enormous advantage in competitive environments where rigidity often leads to failure. The fifth savage lesson is that silence can be more powerful than speech. Broken men often feel the urge to explain themselves constantly. When criticized, they rush to defend their intentions. When misunderstood, they attempt to clarify every detail. But excessive explanation weakens positioning. It places the individual in a defensive posture where others control the direction of conversation. Strategic individuals use silence differently. They allow accusations to expose themselves before responding. They allow critics to reveal their motivations through continued speech. And in many cases, the absence of reaction forces observers to examine the situation more carefully. Silence creates space. In that space, people begin questioning assumptions that might have gone unchallenged during heated arguments. The man who remains silent while others escalate emotionally appears composed. The man who argues endlessly appears reactive. This shift in perception can alter entire power dynamics within a group. Because people trust composure more than intensity, the individual who controls his responses often gains influence without needing to dominate the conversation. The sixth savage lesson is perhaps the most uncomfortable for many men to accept. The world rarely rewards potential. It rewards positioning. Many men believe that if they possess intelligence, talent, or good intentions, recognition will arrive naturally. But history repeatedly demonstrates a different pattern. Influence belongs to those who understand how environments operate and position themselves accordingly. A man may possess remarkable ability, but if he fails to communicate it effectively or align it with opportunities, that ability remains invisible. Meanwhile, another individual with lesser skill but greater strategic awareness may rise quickly because he understands how perception shapes outcomes. Positioning requires awareness of hierarchy. Every social environment contains subtle structures of influence. Some individuals control decision-making, others control information, others shape group perception through communication or reputation. The man who learns to observe these structures gains the ability to navigate them strategically. He identifies who holds real influence rather than who appears powerful superficially. He directs his efforts toward environments where his abilities produce maximum leverage, and he avoids wasting energy attempting to dominate spaces where the structure is already firmly established against him. This lesson transforms how a man approaches ambition. Instead of chasing validation randomly, he studies environments carefully before committing his energy. He evaluates whether opportunities align with his strengths. He observes whether influential individuals recognize value or resist it. And once he identifies an environment where his positioning creates advantage, he commits his effort fully. Because positioning amplifies ability, the results often appear far greater than effort alone would suggest. The seventh and final savage lesson is the ability to walk alone when necessary. Many broken men fear isolation because they associate it with failure or rejection. But strategic individuals recognize that isolation can be a period of preparation. When a man steps away from environments that distort his thinking or undermine his discipline, he gains something invaluable: clarity. Without constant noise from other people's opinions, he begins examining his life more honestly. He evaluates which habits strengthened him and which weakened him. He rebuilds his routines, strengthens his mind, and develops skills without the pressure of social comparison. This period of isolation often becomes the foundation of transformation. The man who was once broken begins constructing a new internal structure. He trains his mind to tolerate discomfort. He practices emotional control until it becomes instinctive. He studies human behavior until patterns become obvious. And slowly, the version of himself that once reacted impulsively disappears. In its place emerges a man who understands leverage, perception, and discipline. When this transformation is complete, the external world begins responding differently. People sense the shift even if they cannot explain it. The man's posture changes. His voice carries greater certainty. His decisions appear deliberate rather than reactive. Because he no longer seeks approval desperately, Others interpret his presence as confidence. Opportunities appear not because he demanded them, but because his reputation now suggests capability. Yet even at this stage, the strategic man remembers the lessons that shaped him. He remembers that respect must be maintained through consistent behavior. He remembers that emotional discipline requires constant practice. He remembers that loyalty must be evaluated through actions rather than promises. And because he remembers the pain that forced him to learn these lessons, he never allows himself to return to the illusions that once made him vulnerable. The broken man who absorbs these 7 lessons becomes something fundamentally different from the person he once was. He no longer navigates life through hope alone. He navigates through observation, discipline, and strategic awareness. This transformation does not make him cruel or indifferent. It makes him difficult to manipulate. And in environments where manipulation is common, that alone can feel like a form of power. But perhaps the most surprising outcome of this transformation is internal. The man who once felt fragile begins experiencing a quiet sense of control. Not control over every outcome, but control over his reactions, his focus, and his direction. He understands that the world will continue presenting challenges, betrayals, and uncertainties. Yet those events no longer define him. They become information rather than devastation. And when a man reaches that point, something remarkable happens. The same world that once broke him becomes the environment that proves his strength. Because the man who has survived humiliation, betrayal, and failure without surrendering his discipline possesses something extremely rare. He possesses resilience shaped by reality rather than illusion. If these ideas made you see power, discipline, and human behavior differently, stay connected with this channel. We explore the strategic side of psychology, influence, and leadership without pretending the world is simpler than it really is. And before you leave, consider this question carefully. Every man eventually experiences a moment when life breaks him. The real question is not whether that moment will come. The real question is what kind of man will emerge after it does. Will he become bitter and defeated? Or will he become the kind of man who cannot be broken again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if this discussion challenged your perspective, subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear it.